sitting there stirring your oatmeal.
Basically.
Like, I don't want to eat this stuff.
I know. Sometimes in the morning, I either wake up hungry or I wake up not hungry, and then I still have to eat because I need fuel. So it's just like,
Were you kind of really dreading eating that just now?
yeah.
I can't believe I got that. I saw you looking down at your food like, oh, spinach.
Not again. No, it's actually really good. It's cottage cheese, pancake, and strawberries.
Oh, yum.
Yeah. It's just I'm not like ready to eat yet, so it doesn't sound too appealing yet.
Gotcha. Hey, well, what about do you ever come up with reasons why you shouldn't eat it? Like you're like, okay, I'll just work out, and then you're like, no, I have to eat this.
It's more like at this time of the season, I have to eat it because in like 3 hours I'll work out and I need something to get me through it.
I wonder if it's just me, but I want to say it's not me. I wonder if people can even relate to that.
You know who actually told me they can is Amanda Barnhart. She
Well, yeah,
posted.
but she's another athlete though, right?
True. Yes. You're saying non-athlete?
Yeah, non-athlete. Like I hear that so often from the athletes. Oh man, it's so hard getting food in. And I feel like the rest of us are like, dude, I'll always eat whenever, however, just feed me.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Like
yeah.
it's so funny because Sunday was rest day. And Sunday I could eat everything in the house. But for some
Oh.
reason, like when Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday hit, my appetite was just kind of like, ugh.
Hey, do you sense the games are on the calendar already, Arielle?
No, not yet. For me, I'm very like plan week by week. I
Uh-huh.
still have this is my week of deload. I have 4 more hard weeks and then a deload and then it's game time. So I feel like I still have work to do like before the final presentation.
Yeah, tell me if I'm wrong, but this
Yeah.
this is more specifically what I mean, and you may know this already. You may have answered it, but I'm guessing as you get closer to the games, you get more you go more inside and you start to get more controlling. Like I just imagine like being a UFC fighter. So I'm guessing like as it gets closer to the games, you're like, okay, the washing machine has to be empty the night before in case I have to wash something last minute. Don't touch that bag over there. Is the house clean? I don't really have time for that conversation. That things just start like changing.
How do you know this?
I'm
That's
just get I'm
exactly.
just ge
Yeah.
I'm just guessing, right? It's like, another thing, like, I used to see that always with Greg, but about an hour before he would go up to speak, like, if he was gonna speak in front of 500 people, he would just change, right? Or it's like it used to be like that for the podcast for me. Not anymore, but 30 minutes before a podcast would start, I would start doing it in my head. And so if my wife tried to talk to me, there was no way because I was already on the podcast. I was gone already.
Yeah. Totally.
It's
Like I have my laundry days.
yeah.
I have my grocery shopping days. I have my days I'm cooking.
Yeah.
And then this is funny. Dylan's ready to go to make love at any hour, any time of the day.
That's
But
how I perceive him. That's how I
but
perceive
during
him.
games training, I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, it's not between 9 a.m. and 10 p.m. I
Yeah.
can't. Like, I either need to go to bed or I need to wake up
Yeah.
and start getting ready for the day. So, like, during games training, I'm like, this is my schedule. These are my hours I'm open. Other than that, like, I either need to go to bed or I need to to do this.
Let me write that down. Dylan Loewen, luckiest man alive. Hold on, let me just
No, but
okay.
it's just like setting expectations. It's not
Yeah.
you. You're beautiful. It's
Yeah.
just I'm exhausted.
Yeah. And yeah. I mean, fair. Fair. So intimacy during games week is out too?
No, I actually
No.
perform better.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
The but some people it is. Like we'll have funny conversations with people and like the Rolfs, it's
Yeah.
off the table until after. But for us it's like I think it helps. I heard a podcast of Ronda Rousey that she was like the more
Wow.
better. So it
Wow.
kind of just depends on the person.
Wow. Dylan seems like a very happy man.
Yes.
I,
Yeah.
I had this friend in college and he was a virgin.
Was he happy?
And no, he was a world-class asshole. I knew him for like 5 years.
Was it you,
I think his name was Pete.
Pete?
Yeah, no, it was not me. But his name was Pete, and during that 5 years I know him, there was one month period where he had a girlfriend and he wasn't an asshole.
Huh.
And then when she went away, he was an asshole again.
That'll happen. Might
Uh,
be a correlation.
so as it gets closer, though, like the week before, you start. It's almost like I'm picturing it as kind of like nesting.
I would say since June, I've been nesting, like making sure the house is ready. Mentally, I know I can't handle more than one podcast a day because like that takes up too much of my time, you know? So just like prioritizing. That's what I like to say.
Right.
Boundaries and prioritizing.
And what does the training look like now?
It's not too ridiculous. It's just 11 till about 2:30, and then I know it's a lot. And
And you
then
do it with homeboy here? You do it with the old guy,
Joel?
Joel?
Yeah, so he's there for about an hour of it. He's there
Okay.
from I'd say 11 to 12:30, and then I'll do my strength stuff by myself.
Okay. By the way, he's looking really buff too. Like
So,
the games training's getting him like in crazy shape. I mean, he looks yoked.
so he literally is the fittest he ever is whenever I leave to go to the games because that's when the fittest I am.
Right.
But our seasons don't match up. So when the open comes around, it's a whole different Joel than it is, August when the games hit. But I mean, he's great. He's just trying to look good to go swimming. He's like, I don't care if I PR my open or PR or whatever. He's just there to throw down and dance.
Yeah, that's awesome. So because the training changes and you're on your training schedule, he gets fitter also. He peaks for the games.
Yeah. And it's
Well,
funny because we'll run together. So, like, one of the intervals will be a 400-meter run, come in, do some stuff. Whenever he comes in and does stuff, he might tweak it a bit so that way he can be fresh to hit the 400-meter run because I'm running it faster because it's game season. So now he's running a 400-meter faster. He just might need a little bit more rest than I do. But he's peaking. He'll be peaking whenever I'm peaking too because we're just doing the same thing.
I used to train with this guy, and we would do that all the time. So there would be I can't remember the workout, but the one I really specifically remember was I think it was a girl workout, and it had 800-meter runs in it. I want to say 5 of them, and then it had GHDs and deadlifts or something. I wouldn't do the GHDs and deadlift. I would just wait on the track.
You
You
would
know
be a
what?
training partner.
Yeah, and then I would just run the 800 as fast as I could. And just talk shit to him the whole time, you know what I mean?
What is
But it also worked good for me too because you have no excuse to lose,
Mm-hmm.
right? So then for me, it just becomes a great 800-meter interval, training session, but we used to do that a lot. I mean, I used to do that a ton with him.
Would you dust him?
No,
Really?
no. You know who it is, who it is too? The guy's still around. I think he has a huge Instagram account now. He was like 6'7". His name was Carl, and he's the guy who draws the figures for the workouts. Someone will
Uh,
say it in the chat. I met him at the weight room at UC Berkeley. Carl. Um. Anyway, I can't remember. Maybe someone will say it in the chat, or Caleb will pull it up. It works great, right? Do you like that? It works great, right?
oh, it's great. I
No,
like to,
not Carl Pally. This guy has like 300,000 followers, Caleb. He whiteboard something. Yeah, yeah. Augustus Link has it. It's like something whiteboard. Eagleman, yeah.
Eagleman. Cool. No, games athletes are very selfish. I mean, I know I'm one of them. So, like, it's about me. It's about me getting fitter, me going faster. So, Joel is great because he tries to make me the best. So, if that means during one of his intervals, he's helping me chalk up the bar, he'll do it.
Yeah, this guy, the whiteboard daily guy. I was so bummed. And he probably loves it because he knows he's getting fitter too. I was so bummed when this guy moved away from California. This guy was my best training partner ever. It was
Uh,
awesome.
you don't have one now, do you?
No, and my wife used to be my training partner. More and more, my kids are becoming my training partner. Last week, I did a clean and jerk workout with the boys, and I've done some thruster workouts. They're getting older, 7 and 9, but it
Yeah.
used to be my wife. I always worked out with my wife, no matter what. And then we had kids, and that stopped.
What age do you give them a barbell? What age do they start lifting weights?
I took them over to CrossFit, which I think it's called. It used to just be called West. Now it's CrossFit West. Daniel J. At 4, Avi started taking Olympic weightlifting classes.
Really?
Yeah, and then what happened was, I really liked the guy, but when the Floyd 19 thing happened and COVID happened, he went kind of the social justice warrior route, and I just didn't wanna be a part of that facility anymore, and so I left. but he's amazing. But I think now this other lady, Kara Hipskin, owns a CrossFit gym on the west side, and I think I'm gonna start organizing homeschooling Olympic weightlifting classes because for all the kids we know are into sports, and so Olympic weightlifting I think will be great for just explosiveness. Not to lift heavy weights, but just to learn explosiveness.
Yeah, and body control.
Yep. And you know what? All my kids are naturals just from watching mom and dad. Like, the first time I ever told Avi to do a clean and jerk, even at 4, he could do it. Like, he knew. Stand up all the way, open your hip, come up on your toes a little bit, come back down, catch it, elbows up. I mean, like, it was perfect. Like, you didn't even have to, you know.
Say, so
Yeah, I
do
gave
you
him
have,
a 2.5-pound bar with the big 5-pound Alico weights on them, like the ones that, the plastic ones, at 4 years old.
do you have good form?
I think I have amazing form, but
Okay.
the last time I put up a video of me, I did 10 power cleans with 135. This is like 6 months or 8 months ago, and like Sousa was like, "Hey, we got to work on that muted hip or some shit." I was like, "What are you talking about? I'm
Caleb,
fucking world class."
Caleb, pull up his clean. I'm just kidding.
I don't even. Hey, that account might be gone. That account might be gone. I don't even know where that account is.
I think we should let the people decide. You should put up a poll on your Instagram.
I'm an amazing mover. It's just the way it is. My air squats are perfect. My pull-ups are. I'm an amazing mover. I'm little. I'm 5'5". I'm just yeah. Savon has great form only with only the barbell. No, I do all sorts of shit good.
Cool. I actually 2 nights ago ordered Blakely's homeschooling stuff.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm gonna slowly start like looking it over because I think when we get back from the games, most kids start school. So we might take a week off and then start. But I'm like, I guess that's one thing I should slowly start looking at.
Let me show you this. Greg turned me on to these. There's this whole company. It's called let me see if I can find it in my orders. There's Greg's basically not going to teach his kids anything besides math and English and diagramming sentences, and then everything else he's going to teach them is around critical thinking. And the books he found are insane.
How old are his kids?
It's called the Critical Thinking Company. I'll show you one of their books.
Okay.
And he ordered everything that they have K through 12, and he said it was like $3,700 for everything. But basically, that's the name of the company, Critical Thinking Detective, and they have everything. They have math, they have algebra for little kids. And these books are awesome, and I got a shitload of them, and they're amazing. So then
give me an example. Like, I don't even understand.
Instead, great question. So instead of teaching them to memorize all the states and all the capitals, and it teaches them critical thinking. So maybe they'll read a paragraph, and they'll have to decide. And then through there, you'll pick out what are the facts or what things you're inferring. So it'll teach them the word infer. Like, do you know that guy's guilty because he was there and the other 2 guys weren't there? So it'll be like a detective story. A dog ate a cookie, right? And so it'll teach you, like, how do you know which dog ate the cookie? And then you infer that it's this dog because the other 2 dogs were playing at the park. But is it a fact? No. And so that would be a form of like just critical thinking, and it really lays it out step by step from when you're little, from when you're kindergarten to when you're a senior, and it gets more complicated and it has math involved and whatnot. And then diagramming sentences is just completely understanding the English he's teaching them about diagramming sentences, completely understanding the English language and all the pieces of it, and what they're supposed to do. Like all the prepositions, verbs, adverbs, conjunctive, just all that shit. It's awesome. And hey, and what's crazy is I'm learning a shitload.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And it's so step by step.
About adverbs and pronouns and
just all that crazy shit. It's so good. I highly recommend looking at this company, the Critical Thinking Company.
It makes me think of like 8th grade math word problems, which like takes me back to where I'm like, oh.
Yes. I
Not in a
hated
good
those
way.
too. Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
And his 7-year-old is really proficient in algebra already, but how they teach it is awesome. It's like with pictures and scales, so it'll be like a scale, and you add things and subtract things to balance the scale, as opposed to making it look like a math equation, but just
Sweet.
basically yeah, it's sweet.
That is sweet. I
Yeah.
love that.
And I
There's
do I do cursive with the kids, so I got the kids, like, these l just cursive books, with the big
Mhm.
the line, and we just play around and do letters, and we challenge ourselves to connect them. They love that shit, and then I like practicing my cursive too, it's cool.
Oh yeah, you got to practice that signature.
Uh-huh.
You never know when you're gonna need it.
Mine's a mess. Did
I
you
have to
sign
practice. I
did you sign
practice.
autographs at, West Coast?
I maybe signed a few at West Coast, not too many, but there wasn't too many people at West Coast, unfortunately. But my first year at the games, I had a different signature than I do now because it
Mm.
looked so ugly. So I went
Oh.
home and was like, okay, if I want to go back to the games again, I have to have this Sam Briggs signature. Have you ever seen
Mm.
hers?
No. Is it
Oh,
nice?
okay. I actually can show you guys. It's beautiful.
I wonder if
It
you type in Sam Briggs autograph,
okay. It actually let me shut off.
if it pops up.
I have
No.
a barbell that everybody signed at the games my first year. Let's see where Briggs. Oh, okay. Tell me if you guys can see. This is Sam Briggs.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. Yes.
And he's
Emily's
got.
is nice too.
Is it?
I mean, you can read it. Mine, you would never know. If I sign something, you would never know it's my name.
Like Toomey's is cool. Look at that.
Toomey's is beautiful, yeah.
Danny's is cool. I think because it kind of it
Does it
flows.
say does it say Tammy? Oh, no, yeah, Danny's is very nice too. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, but
You think Danny and Toomey practice theirs? Like, how does Tia's looks like very practiced.
I feel like you have to.
Yeah, okay.
Like you want to be good at something, you have to practice it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went home and practiced mine, and now mine is all fancy too.
So
Kind of.
Dylan must be good because he gets a lot of practice.
His is like.
I don't mean his signature.
Nope, can't tell you that.
Hey, has Dave contacted you?
No, not yet. I actually reached out to Dallin Pepper because it's like a mystery. I've heard he'll just randomly contact you and you have 10 minutes to jump on. So I was like, Dallin, how did he contact you? And he said via email. So every day, morning, middle of the day, and evening, I'm like checking my emails to make sure I don't miss it.
Yeah. Are you excited about it?
I'm ready to do it and get it done with.
Okay.
Honestly, Dave and me aren't like, I'll see him, I'll say hi, but that's all it's ever equated to. I wouldn't say we're friends. Like I personally am a Boz fan over Dave just because I had 2 years under Boz's programming, and so I got to see him and know him a little bit more.
You're gonna love him.
You think?
Oh my God, he's so fun. And you know what I'm noticing about those? Are you a UFC fan at all?
I'll only watch like big fights, so not very much.
So they have these press conferences, and Dana White does them. And if Dana White doesn't do the press conference before the fight, I don't really have any interest in it, and I don't really know why. But that's how I feel when I watch these interviews with Dave. Like, I'm just curious to see Dave interact with these people.
Well, you know what Dave's brought up so much? Do you like cycling? Do you like riding the bike? And he'll mention hero workouts. And I'm like, he's either just like making conversation or these are like little Easter eggs like Taylor Swift.
God, I can't imagine there being cycling ever again in the games.
That's what I was telling Dylan. And I was like, from a fan perspective, I feel like it's the most boring thing to watch because people ride by on a bike or it's just 40 minutes of people going in a circle.
Well, the truth, I think, I'm speaking on behalf of all the viewers. The truth is we just want to see crashes.
I don't blame you.
So, but I just feel like it, in years past, it's shown that, the best guy, I feel like the best guy always wins, but I just feel like there's too many weird things that can happen with crashes and chains and all that shit. You ever had a bike incident?
No, I don't believe I have. I've had a golf cart incident. Did I tell you that? What happened last year?
No, tell me.
We got a golf cart and Blakely was learning how to drive the golf cart. And so like
You mean at your house here, you have a golf cart and for your neighborhood?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Tuesday night, Dylan teaches her how to drive the golf cart. He tells me she's great. She just takes sharp turns. So they're working on that. And so Wednesday night we finish workout and we go to cool down, just riding the golf cart around. And it was Blakely driving, Dylan in the middle, me on the end. And we're
How
going.
old is she?
At this time, she was 4 years old.
Okay.
So about to get her driver's license.
Yes.
And we're driving 20, 25 miles an hour. And then out of nowhere, she just turns left. And I just like vividly remember being like, okay, we're going towards the mailbox. And then the next thing I know, I'm just flying in the air. And I just rolled on the floor and got like road rash all on my side.
You got tossed out.
Tossed out on the asphalt.
Did she cry?
Oh yeah, she was distraught. Dylan said he had a moment where like I'm falling out, Blakely's turning and driving, and he's like, who do I save? And so he like helped Blakely control it and then came and checked on me. But yeah, no injuries. I think it was like 2 weeks before the games. No injuries. You know, I could have twisted an ankle, busted my wrist, but nothing. Thank goodness. But the worst part is all this happens in front of our neighbor's house, and they were outside and they just like saw it happen and then just like walked inside. And I was like, okay, interesting. Either they didn't realize what happened or they were just like, let's get out of this. This is a disaster.
Dude, that could have been viral. Too bad you weren't filming.
I know. I could have been the next Hawk Tua.
You know, you had a Hawk Tua moment. I didn't at West Coast Classic that was before the Hawk Tua girl.
The rip the pants?
No. There was this it's in the behind the scenes.
Oh, we haven't seen it yet.
And there's I come you and it's early in the morning and you and Dylan are hanging out. Just there's no one around. You guys are in the stadium, and I'm telling Dylan about how my penis touched some porcelain this morning in the bathroom and how disgusting it was. And you're like, hey, you should just spit on it.
You want me to play it?
Or you said, oh yeah, watch this. This is pre-Hawk Tua girl. This was amazing when I saw this. I'm like, Arielle's ahead of her time.
I don't even remember this.
Yeah, this is crazy. I didn't. And what's funny is you can tell at the moment I didn't get it. Like it went completely over my head. Hey, why did you get a golf cart? Like just to drive to the store? Why do you need a golf cart for your neighborhood?
We kind of live in the country, so to get to our mailbox is half a mile.
Okay.
So we'll drive it there, creep on the neighbors. We have a little bit of land, so we'll drive around the land. We don't need one. It was definitely last year I got 4th place in the Open, so it was like, hey, let's treat ourselves.
How much is a golf cart?
Ours was $5,000.
Can you drive it on the street? Like
No.
legally? No.
Not legally. So it's an expensive toy.
Where's the closest like restaurant? How far from your house?
I would say 5 miles. Like
Would
Blake
you get in trouble if you drove it there?
I would just say it's not safe. Blakely's gymnastics is less than half a mile away. You have to get on a not safe road. So it's just not ideal.
So it goes like 30 and there's cars doing 50 on it. And so it wouldn't be safe. Shit like that.
Yeah. And there's no seatbelts. It's very open. People can fall out easily if you turn fast.
Yeah. It's electric?
Yes.
Mm-mm.
So eventually, we're building kind of like an affiliate behind our house.
Mm-hmm.
That will be legit if like the class coach, if I want to be like, okay, we're running a mile, I'm going to follow you guys in the golf cart.
Coaches, in boating, they call that the coach's boat.
Yeah. If needed, if somebody's like left out on the mile run, we can quick hop up, get them,
I love it. That's the justification for the $5,000 golf cart.
That's the justification that I can make it a tax write-off for the business.
Troy Martin, I send my 13-year-old to get mail in my truck. So half a mile away. Oh, that's cool. That's electric.
That is cool.
Yeah. That kid loves doing that. How is
he lives in the country though?
I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
How is the gym coming? Last time I saw it was beautiful. It was amazing.
It's still beautiful. It's just really slow, unfortunately. We have the mats, we have the rig, we have basically all the stuff for the inside. I'm just waiting on the electrician, the drywall guy. We have the sauna, we have the cold tub. Basically Dylan has to do everything. We have the AC almost hooked up. It's just the AC doesn't work right now. So Dylan's like, man, I have to work all day in the hot sun and then come home and work in the sauna of the shop. He's just like not very motivated to do it. Dude,
that place looks amazing.
It's beautiful. Do you have a picture of the outside? It might be on. Yeah. Isn't it pretty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the cold tub functional already?
Yes.
And are you using it?
No.
Um, because why? Because you just don't wanna deal with getting in cold water, or
No, cold plunging, whatever you call it, my body just doesn't do well with it. So I experimented a little bit with it before Rogue,
Mhm.
and it would almost make me overheat whenever I went to work out at 11 if I did it in the morning. And then I got sick from it. Like it really weakens my immune system.
Mm.
So I just get sick really easily. So I've learned it does convert into a hot tub. So I use the hot tub part a lot in the winter, but my body just doesn't do well with the cold tub.
And what about the sauna? Is the sauna functional?
Not yet.
But soon. I
Beautiful
mean,
soon.
hey, I wonder if you go in that for 30 minutes and just get crazy hot and then go in the cold tub, if
That's
that
what
would
I'm
be different.
thinking. I think I need to do a little bit more research on like progressively getting used to the cold tub because I'm mentally strong enough to do it for 3 minutes, like prescribed at the prescribed temperature, but my body's not ready for it. So
A and that will be a place where also you'll train other people. There'll be I know originally when I talked to you, the idea was it would be, pretty exclusive, but now it sounds like it'll be a little more open?
yeah. So the example I use is that's CrossFit Mayhem. And then I'll still have the barn, which is my garage. So that's going to be for the people, best experience if you're a member. And that's just like all people focused. And then I'll still have my garage gym, which will be me. Don't talk to me in there. Don't ask to come join me in there unless I ask you. But this is open to you. That type of thing.
How old was your daughter the first year you went to the games?
3 or 2. No, she was 2. I think she was 2.
Is it getting easier now that she's older or harder?
Um, each year has its own challenges,
Mm.
but this year has been the easiest, I'd say, mental wise. The first year was really hard because I was still at an affiliate that didn't have childcare. So it was like, hey, I need you to help watch my daughter. I need you to help this. And now it's like, hey, I work out from home. She's fine with colors and snacks. I don't have to reach out to too many people. But the each stage gets harder, but this year it seems easy with her because she's so easy and flexible. And I mean, if she's got snacks and hanging out with me, she's a happy girl.
Is she coming to the games this year?
This is the first year she's asked to come. And so I'm
Wow.
in a dilemma because I personally don't think the CrossFit Games is for kids,
Mhm.
but she's asking to come. But
You
I
you
know
mean
my,
you mean you mean like if you're the athlete? I mean, if you're the spectator, it's for kids for sure, right?
you think?
I mean,
It depends what your kid likes. Does your kid like to sit in a coliseum for, 8 hours a day? I think Blakely would go crazy, but she only wants to come because she loves hotels and pools. So
yes,
I'm like, what's the
yes,
underlying? You want to go to a hotel with a pool? Okay, the day after the games, we're going to go to Great Wolf Lodge. Done. You'll like that way better. So
right.
she wants to come, but I know the reasoning behind it.
What about the thought, um, you're not sure how many years you're gonna compete, and she needs to see mama out on the floor? Does that
No,
no.
she doesn't give two F's if I'm on the floor or backstage. Like, what does she want? She wants to go to a hotel with a pool.
Yeah.
She doesn't care what I do.
If you did bring her, you would have to bring someone who's the point man for her, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
She would need her own person besides
Yeah.
you and Dylan.
And my mom could come. So I'm debating getting a day pass for Sunday so they could see the final day. If it's horrible, hey, it's only one day, push through it. And then after that, we'll have some fun.
Are you in Texas? Do you live in
Yeah.
Texas?
So we're 4 hours away from Dickies.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, amazing. So we'll just load up the truck with whatever we need, drive there, don't have to worry about flights, anything. Already acclimated, all that fun stuff.
What do you know about, when the events are happening? Like, does it start on Thursday? Like, do you know if you're competing on Thursday for sure?
Yeah, I think it starts Thursday to Sunday. But we do check in a day later. So we usually check in on a Monday. We're checking in on Tuesday. And I don't know what happens Wednesday. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then we're done.
So conceivably, they could surprise you and something could happen on Wednesday.
Yeah. because we'll all be there.
And that has happened before, right?
Not in the games I've been a part of, but in previous years, I believe so.
I feel like that there has been a games where they went on a Wednesday, they took Thursday off.
Oh yeah, we usually do that. Or game Boz's first year, that's how it
Mhm.
was. Wednesday, and then we took Thursday off, but it got rained out Wednesday. So we had like a makeup workout that Thursday. And
Oh
that was
god.
the hardest games I've ever done because it was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, full jam-packed days. And that was the year of the Capitol. So just an extra whammy.
Hey, what do you think about this Abigail Domick girl showing up and winning the West Coast semifinal? Were you shocked by that?
She performed really good. One thing I noticed at the West Coast semifinals, I feel like not many people had bad events. Those were in the top. So I think she was just the most consistent that weekend and did great.
Yeah, kind of weird to see her in. And what about Hattie Canyu? Were you surprised to see her in the mix?
Yeah. So I was expecting, okay, going into this competition, I'm watching Alex Kazan, I'm watching Emily Rolfe, like the normal people, the normal
Yeah,
names you see. So yeah, that
yeah.
did surprise me. And she killed it. I mean, really, the top, I mean, everybody that made it was super consistent, but Abby and Hattie definitely surprised me. And then what
Yeah.
blew my mind, Hattie was at semifinals last year. And I'm like, man, I didn't even remember that. But this year she just came back and killed it.
Did you have a chance to talk to her, Abigail?
A little bit. We actually ran into her more off stage than we did on stage. So we were at a hotel. They checked into that hotel. We didn't like the hotel, went somewhere else. We had like met each other in passing there.
What, seriously? You went to a hotel and didn't like it and switched hotels at semifinals?
Ended up not getting reimbursed from it, but it was so bad, Savon, that I was like, I seriously can't do this. And I'm usually not high maintenance, but
Yeah.
like cockroaches,
Oh,
blood on the wall.
oh.
You walk in and it just smells like weed. It was bad. And the pictures online did not look that bad. It's not like I was trying to be a penny pincher, but literally half a mile up the road, we were like, I don't even care. Let's try a different hotel. Was so much nicer. So
Which hotel was it?
it was the extended stay.
It's like Extended Stay America.
I think so.
Jonathan
Dude,
Ortega said on that
he
hotel was bad,
he
so
was
bad.
there. He was the one with blood on the wall, cockroach. He actually, because Ortega and me like worked together that weekend. He was awesome. He texted me when we were on the flight. He's like, "Have you seen the hotel yet?" And I'm like, "No, what are you talking about?" He's like, "It's bad. It's real bad. 4 out of 10." Like just mentally preparing me that it's not what the pictures said it was online.
Wow.
I know, but
Hey, go ahead.
people got arrested within the first hour of being there. That's what Ortega said.
Oh my God. What city was it in? Was it in Compton?
It was in Carson, but closer to the Compton side.
Yeah. In Carson, is no.
That's one thing that unfortunately surprised me about the venue was Pasadena last year. Venue was beautiful, and then you walk outside and there was a beautiful courtyard. I mean, hotels everywhere and just really nice scenery. Carson surprised me with the venue itself was impeccable,
Mhm.
but then you walk outside of it and you're like, oh, I guess I have to go to this, like go 20 minutes towards the beach to get the fun things for dinner.
Caleb, if you type in Extended Stay America, Carson, and then hit news, are there like shootings and shit there?
I think the problem is it's an extended stay, so people were legit living there.
Right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised the way California runs, and I'm not even saying this jokingly, that our taxpayer dollars are being used to put people there. Carson Hotel to be renovated into housing for homeless. Exactly. Yeah. Dude, look at
Yeah.
that.
So
Yes, you
basically,
nailed it.
yeah, the consensus was Dylan was like, from now on, I'll pick the hotel.
Oh my
Oh,
God, the
that's
project.
it.
Let me
That's
see the
literally
top.
it. Ortega, are you seeing this?
So that is what's happening. Let me see the top. Oh, we can't get rid of that.
It won't let
Damn.
me get rid of that.
Maybe go to the top a little bit, scroll up a little bit, Caleb. Maybe there's a little X up there.
Sign up Savon's email.
Scroll the.
That's it.
Can you scroll to the top and maybe there's a little X you can click?
Oh my
Project
gosh.
Dub Weinberg. Oh man.
That's
Okay,
it
so
though.
and it has wraparound services. Okay, so it was a homeless shelter when you went there, paid by our tax dollars.
Probably. I was not paying with your tax dollars. I had to pay with my hard working dollars.
And when I say homeless shelter, I mean a place for drug addicts who don't want to work. That's wild.
I mean, you walk in and you could smell every drug that they were doing.
Yeah, that's what's happening in California. Nice hotels are being rented out by the state, and drug addicts are being put in. That's crazy. Hey, the hotel you switched at, was it hard getting a room?
No, Dylan, whatever Dylan did, he called and there was one room available and we got it.
107 studio apartments complete with on-site wraparound services. Gross. Oh my
Literally
goodness.
it. Yeah, Dylan was great because I basically was like, I messed up. I'm sorry. I hate this. Can you help me fix it? And he handled it.
It's a place for the vulnerable. Solutions for the vulnerable. What the fuck does that mean?
What is
We do
vulnerable?
everything we can to find a safe, permanent housing for people experiencing homelessness and CrossFit Games athletes. Oh, that's cool. Nuts. Hey, they wouldn't give you your money back?
No, unfortunately, which is fine. I'd rather eat the cost and come home healthy and safe.
Did you Yelp them?
No, I'm not that type of person. Like,
Yeah.
I'm the one who booked the hotel. It's my own fault.
Yeah.
I'll suck up the cost. It's fine. And
What's
then
what's their Yelp look like, Caleb? Is it crazy?
I'm sure it
Damn.
is.
Jonathan, I was vulnerable there without my pistol. Hey, did other Games athletes stay there?
Well, that's what's so funny. So when we were leaving, Abigail was checking in
Uh-huh.
and stayed there.
Wow.
But her Airbnb she rented, I guess, was so bad that this looked good.
Wow.
Look at the pictures. Like,
Yeah.
doesn't that look nice?
Yes.
They bamboozled me.
I stayed at a hotel in San Jose one time for a film festival, and I went in the hotel room and I pulled the sheets back, and this is true story. The bed was covered with pubic hair.
What? Yours,
It was
probably.
it was like someone shaved in there. This place was absolutely terrible. My fiance and I stayed here on Valentine's Day 2024, but ended up leaving because the first check was ghetto. Then we went upstairs and the room was not as advertised, but we stay. We saw cockroaches.
Yeah.
This place deserves no stars. Even after the bad reviews, we decided to give it a try. We came last minute to a game in the sports complex down the street. Bad idea, to say the least. Lobby was screaming, smoke smell. The rooms are horrible condition. Please look at the pictures and see for yourself.
Yeah, it was bad. Oh, but we did. Well, Dylan went to a Galaxy game while he was there. Isn't that fun?
There's no phone to call the front desk, no shower shampoo, no coffee pot. Floors and hallway have trash all throughout. Oh my God. It
It was
truly is
bad.
a dump.
And so I was like, man, I'm coming to Savon State, California. It's going to be beautiful. It was not.
The hallway smells like marijuana. You smelled marijuana there?
Oh, yeah.
This is awesome. Do not stay here. Slid card and said it was rejected, so slid again, then tried it. It did not work either. Finally, I gave up, went someplace else. Card worked fine with no problem. Next day, credit card company contacted me about over 800 in charges. Oh, shit.
It was bad. I mean, it's in the past. I can't dwell on it, but never again. Never again.
Oh, these reviews are awesome.
Watch there be one from Jonathan Ortega.
Oh, my. Oh my, room smelled bad. Yeah, look at and there's pictures of mold. Oh, look at someone got a picture of the cockroach.
Oh, that guy.
This was the most traumatizing stay at a hotel in my entire life.
Good. I'm glad I'm not the only one I felt like I was being dramatic, but these people, they heard me.
Oh, look, there's not a single 5-star. Go back up. Holy shit.
Oh, 72 reviews.
Do you think cutting toenails or fingernails is gross?
Do I think?
Yeah. You saw
No.
Dylan. No. Okay, good. Me neither.
No, this is what Dylan does. Savon, do you see this couch right here?
Yeah. It's beautiful.
He'll sit on the couch at night, like while I'm putting Blakely to bed, pick his toenails and throw them on the floor. And so I know in the morning if there's toenail clippings on the floor here that like I vacuum them up. So I don't get grossed out by them, but I'm like, hey bro, can you like contain them and then pick them up and throw them away. Don't
Like give it one of these.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's
No,
fair. I think
I'm
that's reasonable to ask. Oh,
all
a 4-star. I stayed at this location from June 12th until June 29th due to renovation to my apartment. Other than the weed smoking, my stay was relaxing and peaceful.
I will say the people at the front desk were the friendliest people ever. So their workers, 10 out of 10. Unfortunately, the facility was not.
That's because their minimum wage has been raised to $20 an hour.
It was so funny though, because they checked us into this hotel. It's like 1 a.m. So me and Dylan are like, we're staying in this hotel. We don't have a choice. She comes in, she walks us to our room, and she's like, what do you think of the room? And we're like, okay. And she's like, lay on the bed. Tell me if it's cozy. If it's not cozy, I'll get you another room. No,
At
seriously.
this shithole, she did that?
Yeah,
Wow.
she like
Wow.
stood there until we laid on the bed to try it out if we liked it before she left. And we're
Wow.
thank you, but like you can't save this one.
Was she embarrassed? Did she get it?
Oh, she was the sweetest lady ever. Like she seemed like she loved her job. She was helping us out, getting us to a room, making sure we liked it and it was cozy.
Where are you staying in Texas for the Dickies
The
event? You got a good spot?
hotel.
Oh, Athlete Hotel.
Yeah, they book it for us, which is nice. So CrossFit Games, this one's on you. This one's not on me.
Is it nice? Have you looked at the hotel?
Yeah, there's like a section of Fort Worth where there's an Omni, there's a Sheraton. It's like a very nice hotel block. We're in that hotel block. Are you going?
I don't know.
What?
I don't know yet.
What are you waiting for?
Access.
Didn't Dave give it to you like a week before last time?
I'm not dealing with Dave this time.
Oh.
Yeah. But I think the behind the scenes were really good, and I think I did a great job representing the CrossFit Games and the athletes and all of CrossFit.
You did. Well,
And
are they
I
letting
didn't hear anything negative. I didn't hear anything negative.
Are they letting other people backstage?
No. So they are, but not like in the past. So last year they gave me really good access. Like I could go anywhere and everywhere. Like I could go into the war room. I could just go anywhere.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I didn't see one other person who had the access I had. Like no one.
No.
But I need that access to do what I do. So because kind of the underpinning of the behind the scenes is to show the inner workings of what goes on there.
Yeah.
And
field, all that fun stuff.
yeah, and I feel best when I can walk around like I own the place. So I want to be able to like film with Dawn or Bill and Katie. There was only one place I couldn't go last year, and there's this whole section where maybe they have equipment that's never been seen before, and like no one's allowed back there. So I stayed away from that. But other than that, I had access. And so this year, I think they're trying to limit that. And we're going to find out. But last year they would say stuff like, hey, it's not fair if you can go places and other people can't. And it's like, I don't think fair even has a place in it. There's tons of place, like the people, the audience can't go certain places. Like it has nothing to do with being fair. You know what I mean?
Well, and who are you being fair towards?
Yeah.
Really, the people I see going backstage are Craig, Buttery Bros, and you.
Yeah.
And
But even they weren't allowed to go last year where I was allowed to go. And I didn't hear them ever complain though.
But are they telling the same story?
No.
No, exactly.
No.
So I think if you're looking at the story you're trying to tell, they had the perfect access for them.
Jonathan Ortega, it's cool, Sevon. You can sit in the stands with me. Yeah. When will you go?
We'll go up Monday. So we'll drive up Monday.
Okay.
We told Pedro, Pedro, Coffee Pods and Wads.
Yeah, Pedro White. Yes, of course.
Yeah, we wanted him to fly to our house to come get a little taste of like Texas steak. We were going to grill for him and all that, and then drive up to Dallas together. Wow. But he flies in, I think on Monday, so it'd literally be the day that we're leaving. And then, people across the pond, 4 hours to them, no way, too much of a drive. So we're like, hey, fly in, hang out with us, and let's drive up. It's only 4 hours. And he's like, 4 hours? Is there a flight we can take?
You can drive across this whole country in 4 hours.
Exactly. We're like, that's a good drive. Like, that's an easy day trip. Get there by dinner, have some dinner. But no, unfortunately, it didn't work out. just due to timing and when I have to be there and he has to be there. But that would have been awesome.
Do you have any thoughts about where you're going to place at the games this year?
I don't, because I'll be honest, semifinals I went in and my expectation was I'm either going to win or I'm going to podium.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think going in with those expectations, you have to like reevaluate them as the weekend goes. And so I'd rather go into the games just like I'm going to do my best and I'll be great. If I have the expectation of podium, I mean, chances are I might get let down because it's ridiculous. So my realistic goal is to be top 10. I think that would be awesome.
They announced who is going to the games, and Trista Smith did not make it.
Mm-hmm.
And all the other girls were like celebrating, and I was watching you, and you didn't get a chance to celebrate because you went over and hugged Trista, and it was a long hug. You probably hugged her, I mean, for a long, long time.
Yeah.
What was that about? Why not just celebrate and be like, "Yo, bitch, you're on your own." Like take it like a champ. Yeah.
No, like makes my heart hurt.
Yeah.
I've made it to the games like in that setting where they call your name. I've experienced that 3 times. Mm-hmm. I've experienced not hearing my name be called 7 or 8 times. So I know how heartbreaking it is to see somebody right next to you, like celebrating, having the time of your life, and your season just ended. You wanted to hear your name, you didn't. So I know the heartache and the pain that causes. So I was like, honestly, I don't care if you're celebrating. You get your moment, you get to train for the games, you get all the fun. Like some people's seasons that they train super hard for, they just found out they're not making it and it's detrimental and it hurts and it sucks. And I mean, sometimes you just want to hug. What I felt bad for is I went in for a hug because I'm like, hey girl, you killed it this weekend. You're in the final heat. And it's one of those hugs where you hug and like you kind of go to pull away, like, are we done? And then that's when she just hugged tighter. And then I just felt like the sobbing. And I'm like, okay,
yeah. I mean, you were in full mama mode. I saw you like maybe even like doing her hair. I was like, holy shit, this is real as fuck.
It was hug. My heart hurts for you. You're amazing. I love you. And then we held it there for a second. And then I could just like feel her crying and her heart breaking.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to stay here. Take your time. I know you don't want everybody to see you crying, distraught. And so I hung on until she was like ready to face the world, you know?
Yeah.
And it was longer than I expected, but like I could feel the sobs. I could hear the sobs. So I was like, I'm so sorry. I've got you.
Yeah. And so back to the behind the scenes, those are the moments I want to get. And if I don't have access, I won't get those moments. Like I was right there. I hung out for all 3, 4, 5 minutes of the hug.
It was a long hug. And I know a lot of people were jealous that I got to hug Trista Smith.
Yes. And you know what? She's going to look back at that in 5 years and watch the behind the scenes and be so excited that moment was captured.
Yeah. I mean, those moments make you grateful for when you do make it. You're like, okay, because of that, I got stronger, I got fitter. But in the moments, it sucks.
Yeah.
And it has to suck so you can learn from it and grow and improve.
Arielle, I love you to death, man. You're the best.
You too. Thanks, Saran.
You're a great human. All right. Have a good training day.
Thank you. Bye.
Say hi to Dylan.
I will.
Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye. Don't take... Oh, shit. I lost Dale. Dylan has his own Hawk Tui girl. Crazy. Hi, Caleb.
Hi.
45 minutes more and I'd have fallen completely in love with her. You can't have Arielle Loewen on for more than 45 minutes.
I'm surprised you haven't fallen completely in love with her already.
Yeah, you want to ask her if she want to take on another husband.
She's amazing, right?
Yeah, she's cool as shit.
You can tell she's intense now. She's got like a little bite to her.
Where does she train? In her garage. Dale Saran. What's up, dude?
Go ahead, ask about the eyeball.
What happened to the eye? Hey, but first I like the new backdrop. Before it was you were sitting in the entryway of your house with a pistol on the desk.
Don't kid yourself. I always have pistol access. Don't be stupid. I'm always ready to go. Come on now.
Always got that thing on him.
And now look like you've been busy reading. Did you get a new? Are you at home still?
Yeah, I'm at home in the basement. That's actually a backdrop. That's a screen. It's not an actual bookshelf, but I like it.
Is that a fake one?
No shit.
Yeah. Jay was like, hey, you got to put something different than your screen back there. So Jay's been trying to turn me into a quasi-professional while we've been working on my podcast.
We'll get to that in a second. Of course, yes. What happened to the eyeball?
So I'm just playing hockey Sunday night. I subbed in, and of course, I don't wear a shield or a cage. And of course, the law of unintended consequences. I lifted a guy's stick up. He was going by. He let it go. It caught me right in the face twice. I got the shaft, and then he got me in the corner with the curve of the blade as he was going by. It got me pretty good.
That's what happened to Haley last night. She caught the shaft.
That's right. That's what that's from.
She let the stick go and caught the shaft.
Yeah, it happens. Now my wife's been going around. We had some water issues here in the house. So every time somebody bumps into my wife and they stare at me, she's like, that's what he gets for giving me lip. She's enjoying that entirely too much.
You know, if you were a woman and you had Haley had 2 black eyes during the pregnancies from babies breastfeeding and then banging their head up.
Ooh.
And every time she's had a black eye, someone in public, obviously at Santa Cruz, has stopped her and is like, you know, it's okay to talk about it.
Nobody has. Yeah. Oddly enough, no one has yet asked me until if, I want to talk about it. It told me that it's okay to talk about. That hasn't come up yet. People just stare at me like,
it's Men's Mental Health Month, isn't it?
That's
Did you get a ringing from that, Dale? Is that
no?
No. Did you know it was bad when it happened?
I was still playing, so I got up. I mean, I was in the middle of a play, and so I kept skating for a while, and then I got over to the bench and I said, am I cut? And the guys on the bench were like, and they're like, yeah, you might need to wipe that off. And so, because it was bleeding down my chin while I was trying to play. And so
that's a soft spot. That's a nasty place to get a cut under the eye.
Yeah. I didn't even once. And then the funnier thing was when I got home from the game, that was a game, not even my game. I was just subbing in and trying to hide it from my wife because she has always been like, hey, why don't you wear a cage? Or why not? So when I came in, she was like, will you wear a cage, please? I was like, I didn't even try to argue. I was like, I'll put the cage back on. So I'll go back to wearing a cage.
If you're not used to a cage, will that affect your play?
I wore a cage. I grew up with cages and wore them for years, but I thought it made people more careless with sticks. And I like the visibility. I feel like even though there probably aren't with the cage, I feel like I have blind spots. Well, actually, I know there are. When the puck's in your feet, your chin bubble, the thing on your chin that holds the cages, when you look down, you can't see shit if the puck's down low. And so I like not having it. I like the visibility over the cage, but I'll probably go back to wearing it because I can't risk losing an eye. So
does anyone who plays pro not wear a cage?
They wear shields now. I think it's mandatory. Everybody's gonna wear a shield. I don't think the shields do shit. I think it's kind of like
theater, as Greg would say, security theater.
Yeah, I think the glass is more theater than it is reality. It doesn't really protect much, I don't think.
Yesterday, the Supreme Court handed down a decision. It's kind of weird. The NHL has a rule that requires players with fewer than 25 games of experience to wear a visor that properly covers their eyes while attached to their helmet. The rule was introduced in 2013. It's intended to provide adequate eye protection. However, as of November 23rd, some players, including Jamie Benn, Zach Bogosian, Armenian,
there you go,
Milan Lukic, Matt Martin, etc., still don't wear visors and are exempt from the rule.
Yeah. I don't like it. The other thing is, if you're going to fight, I hate that guys who drop the gloves wear a shield. I mean, if you're going to drop the gloves, you should, ditch the
throw the helmet too, right?
Yeah, but they made a rule like you can't do that, and I get why. But
is there fighting in your league?
No, not supposed to be. Not supposed to. I've had one game suspension and I had no punches thrown. I was trying to defend a teammate who had like 3 guys on top of him. So I just grabbed one of the other guys and that was sufficient to get me tossed for a game. So whatever.
Wow. Speaking of getting tossed, so I know we could fall into the weeds in this, and there's so much to say that's been occurring to Donald Trump. By the way, I don't know. Last night I was listening to Gutfeld give a talk. This is off subject here a little bit, but he was giving a talk talking about lying versus hyperbole. And he was talking about the distinction between what Donald Trump does versus what Joe Biden does. That Joe Biden's just an outright liar, and Donald Trump's a real estate salesman. He's basically like, oh my God, the ceilings are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
There's never been anything greater than the view from the veranda. And so that there's a hyperbole to him.
Yes.
But Joe Biden is just straight fucking lying. Hey, no one died under my tenure.
Right. That was when he said that, I was like, what? What about that squad of Marines that got blown to smithereens? Hey, how about this? Forget the Americans for a minute. Forget about the Marines down at Kabul airport. But how about after that happened, a few days later, in order to prove that they were tough, they drone struck what they later admitted were innocent people. Like it was like 5 children and 2 people, and nobody resigned. Nobody even had like, we've reached the post honor era of the military. Like I tell people, it's amazing to me. Mike Border was the chief of naval operations when I was in the military. He killed himself because Newsweek was going to run a story that he was wearing awards that he wasn't entitled to. And so Border drove out into Potomac Park or whatever and blew his brains out with a 45. He was the chief of naval operations. The first seaman to admiral, right? And when it happened, I remember I was in at the time. And I remember when it happened, and I remember the talk and he was wearing a couple of devices that had Combat V on the medals that he wasn't entitled to. He was entitled to the medal, but Combat V means something on like a Bronze Star. It means an act of personal valor in combat. You can get a combat action ribbon, for example, for just being there when the bullets are flying. But if you get a Combat V, that signifies that, hey, it's a conspicuous act of gallantry under fire. And so he had a couple of those that he wasn't entitled to. And there had been rumors about that. And Newsweek was going to run with that story. Yeah, Mike Borda. And I in no way do I think he should have killed himself. I do not. Yeah. See the 2 Vs, the 2 Combat Vs, Navy Com and a Navy Achievement Medal. Those 2 right there. The green and white is a Navy Accommodation Medal with Combat V. And the orange and green striped one next to it is the Navy Achievement Medal with Combat V. And so, like, I've got a couple NAMs and a couple comms, but none with Combat V, and I wouldn't dare to do it. So when that got reported, yeah, the 2 ribbons with V devices. When that got reported, and that was about to go hot, he started his pistol, killed himself. I don't say that was a good thing, but boy, have we come a long way from a day when the chief of naval operations offed himself because of how he felt he would be perceived by his fellow warriors. And we got generals now who drone strike innocent people and just get up in front of Congress and go, meh. Nobody even offers to retire in disgrace. You know, that was, to me, that's the end right there. That's the absolute, the apex is the top. What's the bottom? You know, the apogee. I forget which it is. Perigee.
Or what is it in a wave? The trough.
Yeah, the trough. Just call it. That's the bottom right there. That's the military bottoming out, as far as I'm concerned, for officer class. I was embarrassed and ashamed for them.
Hey,
on their behalf.
have you ever heard of anyone refusing a medal, getting a medal, meaning like, no, I don't deserve that? No.
Yeah, I tried to do that once. That
didn't
work out so well. Yeah. So when I came in, right. Me and a buddy of mine came in right after that. We got commissioned right after the Gulf War. So we had missed the Gulf War. That was over. We were told we were going to be part of it, and so at our first inspection at basic school, we're brand new second lieutenants, but they're still handing out they hadn't closed the window of eligibility for a
National Defense Ribbon,
National Defense Service Medal, the NDSM, right. The pizza stain, the red and yellow, right? Yep. And so there we are as second lieutenants at our first inspection, and we're supposed to wear this little single ribbon. We haven't done shit, you know. We're still in training 6 months. You know, we haven't even been in the Marine Corps for 3 months, and we've got. Yeah, there it is, the pizza stain. And so there was a famous broadside comic that came out during this time where a second lieutenant's walking along and this drill instructor is pointing at him and goes, "I'm sorry, sir, I mistook that for a pizza stain on your uniform." And that became kind of a famous comic of the day. So we didn't want to wear it. And so we had our first inspection. And so me and my buddy had decided, like, in solidarity, like, we're going to be hard. We're old Corps guys. You know, we're not going to wear a medal to which we are not entitled. And so we showed up for the inspection. Inspecting officer was like, and of course we got last names, both start with S. You know, we've been to college together, so we've always been standing next to each other in formation. And this inspecting officer got in front of us, and you could see him go livid. He was like, "Where's your National Defense Service Medal there, Lieutenant?" And I was like, "Sir." And I start explaining. He goes, "You will get that fucking medal on the next time I see you, or I will throw you out of here myself." And he looks at me, and he was like, yeah, he goes, "You wear what you're fucking told to wear," and blah, blah, blah.
What's the rationale of that? Why not just be like, why not give you like a
it's in your book,
an integrity medal? Then?
No, he didn't want to hear that shit. He was me and Mike both. He was like, "You fucking idiots, get back and go put your NDSMs on, you shitheads." You know, we were like,
Now it's like a badge of honor because they stopped giving them out like last year. So
That's
like
so
you go to
funny.
school with a bunch of new guys and they don't even have them on.
Yeah, it's
So
ridiculous.
like you got to wear it now.
Hey,
Because
I'll tell you what. There's a great story.
Got
Smedley Butler, who's famous for having two medals of honor. So Smedley Butler is a legend in the Marine Corps, and he had two medals of honor. His first one he got for actions down in the Mexican American War, and he sent it back after he got it and said that he had done nothing to deserve it. And he got essentially, you can find the letter in his book, War is a Racket, in the back section when it talks about his biography, but he got a letter back from the Secretary of the Navy telling him the same thing that we got: shut your mouth and wear your fucking medal. And so he was like, okay. So he wore his second Medal of Honor, but his first one, he didn't think he deserved it. He wrote a letter specifically saying, I've done nothing to deserve this. And there's more than enough evidence to suggest that, they were giving those things out kind of to make it, for propaganda reasons. He didn't want any part of it, but they told him he had to wear it to shut up. So
How about this guy? Have you seen
the
this guy?
Biden White House hires an absolute nutcase, anti-law enforcement, terror sympathizer as an associate communications director. Yeah, that tracks. DEI bingo hits again with the promotion of Tyler Cherry, a ordinary individual who will now serve as associate communications director.
Yeah, I saw that.
Looks the part for that DEI administration.
Hey, it's the same.
Right? His large history of controversial anti-white, anti-Israel, anti-law enforcement social media posts are raising some eyebrows. Important to note, he wasn't 15 at the time of these tweets, but rather pushing 30. I mean, none of this is surprising for the Biden White House. Calling for the abolishment of ICE and sympathizing with terror networks isn't out of the ordinary, but this just further goes to show that Joe Biden isn't in charge over there. He's not making the decisions or calling the shots. Rather, his band of Gen Z and millennial DEI weirdos who don't know which bathroom to use, let alone how to navigate the most important role in the world, they are running the White House, and that should tear news. The Biden White
Crazy.
Yeah, only par for the course. There's a great conspiracy theory that I thought was as nutty as, squirrel shit, but now I'm coming around on it. But that this has been Obama's third term, there's all kinds of evidence for that. I don't know if you remember when there was Obama made an appearance at the White House and Biden was there, and this was early in Biden's term. And Biden's kind of walking around and no one will talk to him. They're just ignoring him.
I
like
remember
he's not
that
even
footage.
there.
Everyone's shaking Obama.
Right. And everybody's like,
ignoring.
Obama, they're just loving on. And Joe is just like, trying to get somebody to talk to, and just like a Roomba, just wandering around, bumping into feet and everything. And that said a lot to me. And of course, everybody who's at the White House, like Valerie Jarrett, it's all holdovers from Obama. And then there's that interview he gave where Obama talked about, he would love to have, a third term where he didn't have to, deal with it. I mean, it looks clearer and clearer, right? That he's actually been the one pulling the strings there through his folks in the White House. But what was interesting to me about this is I think that given Biden's history, I don't think any of the DEI stuff, I don't think the transgender, all the Troon cult nonsense is Biden. I think that's Obama's people, which what's her face just said there. That's probably true, but it does make you think that maybe there's more. Like, why would Obama do it? And then you hear all the things about Obama saying, I've dreamt about men and all that stuff. And I'm like, boy, it sure starts to make that look more plausible, that I wouldn't otherwise have given it any credence. But boy, all of that stuff, it looks to me, somebody wrote something recently on Substack about it. It's a humiliation ritual. And that's what it looks like to me.
Hey, so the Biden administration wanted it to make, they were pushing so that any child 12 years old and older could chop off their genitals without telling their parents, right? They were pushing for a full, child abuse on the fucking highest, predatory child abuse at the highest level. But, and it was being pushed by Rachel Levine. It was being pushed by
Dick Levine?
Yeah, by this girl. And newly released emails from an influential group issuing transgender medical guidelines indicate the U.S. health officials lobbied to remove age minimums for surgery in minors because of concerns over political fallout. So recently, they've reversed it. Yeah,
well, that's because England came out. There was a big thing that basically England said no more, done. That in fact, England said it's abuse, and what's her face there? J.K. Rowling has been kind of thrashing people about that soundly. Yeah. But the Troon cult has run its course, and it seems to be kind of kind of
what
running out
cult?
of
What
steam.
did you call it?
The Troon cult, Troon. That's sort of the nickname for the transgender nonsense that we've been living through.
Hey, early on when the discussion popped up a few years ago, people were like, "Hey, surgical intervention for psychological interviews, interventions for psychological issues was, outlawed in whatever 1960,
Yeah.
whatever, with the end of lobotomies."
Yeah.
And for anyone who wants to know some of the saddest things, Kennedy's, I think, sister
Yes.
Rosemary Kennedy. If you want to read the saddest thing ever. They gave her a lobotomy, or maybe it was his aunt, and they gorked her on accident.
Yes, and then the Kennedy family kept her hidden away. That was widely known. If you're from Massachusetts, New England, you're fully read in on that. That's been a long, unspoken but well-known Kennedy family secret. Along with Ted's, Chappaquiddick killing of the, abandonment of the gal. He was drunk driving and got her killed when he escaped the car. I mean, that's all part of the Kennedy lore in New England.
I would love to just find one person who had their penis chopped off and 10 years later is happy about it, because the stories coming out of people who, like, their vagina unraveled or their new penis got infected. You know what I mean? I mean, the stories are fucking nuts. And it's like, I mean, it's some crazy shit. It's like shit you would see in a museum in Los Angeles, torture, Chinese torture.
It's Dr. Mengele level shit that,
Yes.
that we tried people at Nuremberg in 47 for this kind of stuff. And now I mean, imagine if you go back and look at the indictments against the Nuremberg doctors, you'll find things that look a lot like this, and you'd be horrified. By the way, it's a part that people don't understand about the Weimar Republic. Just prior to Hitler coming to power, Hitler's rise to power in many ways was a reaction to rampant gay transgenderism. That was the thing in the early 30s, a very, very well documented part of, you can go back and find this stuff, that Germany was known for its kind of this stuff, the same kind of stuff that we are reliving the 30s all over again. The late 20s, early 30s. We're just reliving it all again. Same thing.
It's so interesting. Greg was pointing me towards who's the conservative military historian?
Victor David Hanson.
Yeah, Victor David Hanson. Greg was pointing me towards some things showing the parallels.
Yeah.
That what happens when empires start flourishing and they take this, like, holier than thou moral high ground, and they start trying to think they're going to accept everything under the guise of being peaceful people, and it just gives an excuse for the monsters to raise their heads.
Yeah, Victor David, he's got a book out right now called "And the End of Everything," The End of Everything.
Yeah.
I'm about 60, 70 pages in. It's a damn good book. He's a brilliant historian.
Is it scary? Is it going to scare the shit out of me?
Yeah, you'll read it and go, oof. It's how civilizations get destroyed. Yeah, how wars descend into annihilation. And it's got 4 different examples. I've already finished the first one. I'm into the second one right now. How Carthage was destroyed by the Greeks. It's a really, really fascinating analysis. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty.
I saw him being interviewed, obviously, over at the Hoover Institute regarding the book, and it was a great interview. He basically gives a synopsis of the 4 pieces of the book you're talking about.
Yeah. He gives 4 different examples, but he's a brilliant historian, a classics. He wrote the one that really introduced me to him. I think it might have been Greg who turned me onto it too. Was Who Killed Homer, and he talks about what happened to classical studies, and he comes to the conclusion it was kind of the same, the idiots within academy, who just turned it into a joke. I love that in the book, he in the beginning, in the acknowledgement of the forward, he's like, all translations of Greek and Latin texts are the author's own. I just love that. Like, he didn't need, dude reads and writes, fluent Greek and Latin. He's like, I don't need any help on the translation. I'll just do my own. Thank you.
I mean, he was fully immersed, right? He was like a Latin study. Yeah, he went full in.
Yeah. He speaks Greek and Latin, and yeah.
So yesterday, the Supreme Court said something along the lines of a president of the United States can't be tried or tried for criminal activities that were related to the job.
Yeah, it's not
No,
quite
okay.
what they said. It's not what they said.
Okay. Okay.
And by the way, this is somebody had a great line about this. I read it recently, but in the immediate reaction, all the Sturm and Drang over this, but somebody said, everybody but Jack Smith has always known that the president had immunity for official actions. And so the idea, there was a famous Supreme Court case. It's called Youngstown Sheet and Tube Company versus Sawyer. And this was a 1952 case. It was Harry Truman, most people don't know, tried to, he seized basically the steel industry, and they sued over it and went to the Supreme Court. And the question was, could Harry Truman, because the president of the United States, kind of like, the dictator in Venezuela, could you just nationalize and just seize?
What does that mean to nationalize something? Like if the U.S. government said we now own Amazon?
You're right. Yes. So the Venezuelans,
Tim Cook, you're out, and some tranny. We're putting some tranny in charge.
Yeah, you no longer own it.
Okay.
We're going to to seize and operate most of the nation's steel mills.
Okay. Wow.
So they just said we're going to show up and you don't run this anymore. Like one day you own a business. It would be like if tomorrow the government said we're going to seize all alternative media. And so we're only going to have mainstream and all these alt media people like you, Matosi, and that's it. You're done. We're seizing.
Someone came in and took all my podcast gear, and then they own the domain at YouTube and all that.
Everything.
Okay.
They just took the domain and they're in control of it. They just put locks on the doors of your studio and they just started running it. And that's what typically happens in, communist countries. That seems to be when things start failing, they start nationalizing. And so Venezuela nationalized the oil industry. Venezuela is sitting on the world's largest oil reserves for what it's worth. And, look at them. Yeah, it must be all the capitalism that's forcing them to eat their pets. But in any event, so Truman tried to do that in Youngstown Sheet and Tube. And the Supreme Court came in and was like, no, you can't do that. And
during a war?
Yeah, even during a war. It was during the Korean War. So it's a very famous case. It's a staple of con law 2, I think it is, in law school. Like everybody does Youngstown Sheet and Tube. And it's really become a very well cited, well understood opinion about the limits of presidential power, as well as, what can be done about it. Like nobody, for example, Truman did that. The Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. But nobody subsequently said, okay, now we're going to prosecute Truman for that. No one said, okay, now Truman's subject to criminal, even though it was an expropriation of people's property. It's fundamentally just a theft of the steel mills of the United States. But nobody said, okay, Truman needs to go to jail now. Like subsequently, now we're going to prosecute Truman for it. And the reality is
important, right? And that's important that they can't prosecute him for that.
Yeah, of course. You can't have, so this case that just came out yesterday, notwithstanding all the wailing and gnashing of teeth, it didn't say anything that a reasonably well thought constitutional law professor, would have said. Like when I was at, law school in 99, 97, 98, no one would have thought anything about this decision other than, that, yeah, of course you can't prosecute the president for official acts. And basically what they did is they broke it out into different, call it different, like concentric rings. And so that what they said was that in the areas that are conclusively given to the president, that are constitutionally delegated, we have a separation of powers. This all flows from the separation of powers, meaning that we have 3 different branches of government. We have the legislative, which is the Congress. They make the laws. We have the judiciary. The judicial branch looks at the laws and says either they are or they aren't, constitutional. And then the president is supposed to execute the laws, and he has other powers that are given to him. And this is widely well understood. And they basically looked and said, look, there's absolute immunity where you have something that is conclusively and preclusively given to the president. For example, they talked about the removal power of people he appoints, that is an absolute, that's conclusively constitutionally delegated to the president, and nobody can, Congress, they couldn't criminalize that. They have no right to criminalize that. And the same way that the president can't change a law. Like that is exclusively and preclusively given to him. And so he's got absolute immunity for doing that. And this comes up because the way they charge this, it's really interesting. If you look at what he's charged with and what Trump was charged with in DC, they're trying to charge him with, the insurrection, but they didn't charge him with insurrection because they knew they couldn't make it stick. So if you look at the charges in DC that he was charged with, he actually has 4 charges. And it's like, the first one is a conspiracy to defraud under 18 USC 371. The other one was conspiracy to obstruct under 1512, which was the Enron statute. And then the third charge is obstruction and attempt under 1512 C2, which is also the Enron statute. And then conspiracy against rights is the 4th count of the indictment. And they go through it and they just say, look, all these acts that they alleged are many of them are things that are official acts that were done in his role as the president. So for example, their big claim is like, he threatened to fire, he tried to pressure the attorney general and he threatened to fire him. And the Supreme Court said, yeah, he has an absolute, nobody can say shit about whether he fires
because that's an appointed position.
Yeah, it's appointed by him, and he's got the absolute power of removal under the Constitution. So if he wants to shit can the AG, he can shit can the AG. That's within his purview, and nobody gets to say anything about it. He certainly can't be tried criminally for it. And then they sort of go outward from there, and they go, okay, there are the things that are exclusively given to him, and then as you move outward from there, they go, well, then there are things that maybe aren't exclusively, but they might be things where both the president and the Congress have a say. And in those areas, they say, look, at the outer limits of his power, he still has presumptive immunity. In other words, you can't have a president be the president if they have to worry that any decision they make is going to be subject to criminal prosecution after the fact. This is another case.
Can you give me an example where that would go bad? What would it do? It would just paralyze the office?
It'd be impossible for you to
company.
Right. So suppose the president decides, suppose there's an embassy that's collapsing in Liberia. Like I remember when the Liberian embassy needed to be rescued, right? And all the people there. So the president decides that he's going to send Marines in to go in and rescue Americans and take all this action or whatever. You could argue, and there's the War Powers Act, which was passed by Congress. Every executive has said that they refuse to acknowledge it, that it impinges on presidential prerogatives. But suppose they could say, well, you violated the War Powers Act, and you'd have to be worried that you'd be prosecuted criminally for sending Marines in without a declaration of war to rescue people in an embassy. I mean, you could come up with a infinite number of examples of where if you had to worry about criminal prosecution for acts that, might be argued later, well, we didn't agree, we didn't like it, ergo it was criminal, therefore you'd be prosecuted. I mean, the president would be crippled. The presidency would become nothing.
So you fire on a Russian nuclear sub, the sub sinks to the bottom, and next thing you know, the president's being charged criminally for polluting the ocean.
Right. You could come up with all kinds of, again, there's no end to the foolishness that could follow. And the Supreme Court talks about that in the opinion. They do a pretty good job. The interesting thing is they draw the line at what they call official and unofficial acts. And they say the Clinton v. Jones case was one of the few cases, and that happened when I was in law school. So I remember we read that quite a bit. We studied that a lot because there was a big question about, could Clinton, would he have to answer for acts? Clinton argued that while he was president, he had immunity and he couldn't be sued by Paula Jones. She'd have to wait. She'd have to just sit there and toll the statute of limitations, just wait until he left office. And the Supreme Court said, no. These were acts that occurred that were unofficial acts, and they didn't occur while you were president. They occurred while you were.
So fingering a girl at the workplace as the president is not an official act.
That would appear not. No, right.
Against her will. So raping someone would fall outside.
Yeah, those are acts that are not official. They're not, and they spend a good deal of time talking kind of in the interstitial about things that, even though they might not appear to be official. They're like, hey, a lot of the things that the president does, like when he addresses the nation on issues that don't exist, there's no statutory reason for him to be talking about, say, if there's a tragedy and it kills a bunch of Americans, they're like, and the president gives a speech about that. Those are official acts, even though there's no statute, there's nothing you could point to say, well, he has the authority to do that or whatever. It's like, that's just part of what inheres in the office of the presidency. And so they talk about that as well. And they go through, I took a bunch of notes, but
What about taking bribes, Dale?
yeah, that's not
official.
No, that's not
So-
official either.
So if you and the president could be charged criminally for that.
Sure. But the thing is, you'd have to start is the way it works is this. In order to indict him criminally, you would have to start with, and they say this, they've set it up so that the courts would have to make an initial determination of whether the acts were official or unofficial. And the burden would be on the government to overcome the presumption of immunity that in fact these things were official. And so it sets the bar pretty high and makes it such that, look, we're going to presume that you're immune. And then it's on the government to overcome that immunity, that presumptive immunity, and show that these were unofficial acts. And then the other term they use, manifestly or palpably beyond his authority. I mean, you'd have to find things that were clearly outside of and overcome the immunity and all of that. So, and then one of the things that was interesting, I found in the opinion, was that courts may not inquire into the president's motives. And they cite the Fitzgerald case, the Harlow Fitzgerald, which was all had to deal with Nixon's firing of some of the lawyers. And there's a lot of this comes out of only really a couple cases, but the Nixon case, there were a series of cases that came out of that. But they do a pretty good job, I think, of saying, you can see that they're trying to cut off. They're like, we're not gonna have this where you get to inquire into the president's motives, or like it would turn every decision. Everybody could say, oh, he did this because he's really a dirtbag and a bad guy, and like it may look that way to you politically because you disagree with what he's doing, but we're not going to go down that road. And so
what about like Biden taking money from China through his son's corporations? Is that they couldn't even ask what his motive is for that?
No, well, that's one of those ones that to me looks like it is, and maybe it's my political view, but that looks manifestly or palpably beyond his authority. Hey, we fired the prosecutor, we threatened but I mean, from Biden's perspective, right now, let me be Biden's defense attorney on hey, we told him, fire the prosecutor or we wouldn't give him the $1 billion.
Right. You're talking about what happened in the Ukraine.
Yeah. He's got a great argument that would at least presumptively, he'd have presumptive immunity. It was an official act dealing with a foreign power. That's clearly, falls within, and he was the vice president. And there's some other aspects to this too that are really interesting because Pence, of course, has turned Judas Iscariot on Trump. And Pence is sort of like, oh, you tried to pressure me and all that with regard to the certification in January 6th. And they say, hey, the president and the vice president are supposed to be close. There's no official. They talk a good bit about what role the president has in the certifying of the electors and all that, and the relationship between the president and the vice president and all that. But they basically said, hey, look, the problem here is that in the first instance, neither the district court nor the DC appellate court, neither the DC district court nor the DC circuit court would rule on whether these were official or unofficial acts. In other words, they just said, well, it's not official because we can find a law that we think it violates, ergo no immunity. And the court was like, yeah, you got that wrong, like wildly wrong. And so they sent it back light, they didn't really PP wrap the DC district court too hard, but pretty clearly said, look, you guys you whiffed hard on this one. So it's going back to the DC district court, and they have instructions about, how you have to look at this and, what they can and can't do. And then of course, so it's a majority opinion 6-3. And the interesting part is Thomas's concurrence. He writes a concurring opinion.
Down party lines too? Was it split down party lines?
No, because Amy Coney Barrett, who, my opinion about the Supreme Court justices is not like when I heard that, she was picked and people called, so-called conservative, political conservative justices like Kavanaugh, for example. People are like, oh, he's real conservative. I think that misses it completely. Like the Republican Democrat kind of faux dichotomy, for people like me, the real thing that matters is how you are on individual rights versus state authority.
Right.
And so, Kavanaugh was part of the, John Yoo torture memo, Bush White House. And so I always thought Kavanaugh, for all Like liberals jumping up and down about Kavanaugh being elected to the Supreme Court to me was being appointed to the Supreme Court to me was always kind of funny because, Kavanaugh is no friend to individual rights at all. Kavanaugh is just a standard Bush level honk, and I know people who know him and they hate when I make fun of him, but that's my take. Kavanaugh is no great, conservative. You get an originalist like Thomas. Gorsuch is good on individual rights. Alito's mostly okay, but all of those folks come out of the same view of the world, which is of course they're always willing to grant immunity to federal officials, because what are they? Federal officials. The government pays their check, and so it's we haven't had. Gorsuch is probably the best, most civil libertarian justice that we've had and currently have among the current slate of black-robed Pharisees. But Amy Coney Barrett and Sotomayor and Jackson all went, said, oh, he shouldn't have any immunity at all in varying reasons. But the other six
couldn't that if this passed be the collapse begin like a real death blow to the United States? Couldn't have this just been absolutely horrible? Like maybe the worst thing that's happened in our lifetime.
Yeah,
they wouldn't have given a president immunity.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Look, it's arguable whether the republic even exists as we know it. I mean, the Constitution is largely at this point a dead letter.
Let me. Oh, ouch. Let me ask you this: do you think that if it was the other way around, and it was a Democrat who was in, let's say Donald Trump was a Democrat, do you think it would have been 9-0?
Of course it would have.
Because the conservatives would have gone by the letter of the law.
Yeah, for sure. It would have been 9-zip. Yeah,
That's what's crazy to me. I don't hear any. That's what's crazy to me. I think that too. I can't tell if I'm naive or if it's just.
No, that's not naive. That's realist. I mean, it's unfortunate that's where we are, but that's where we are. Pretending otherwise is. I mean, I have to make these kinds of judgments. Certainly not with Supreme Court justices, but that's what lawyers do. I don't make judgments about what I would like the law to be or what I think the law should be. You make judgments on behalf of your clients on what the law really is, where the rubber meets the road, and including, the old joke about a good lawyer knows the law, a great lawyer knows the judge.
Oh.
So I mean,
just to go back to the Ukrainian thing. So basically, the pop narrative is this: that there was an attorney general in the Ukraine. He opened an investigation into Hunter Biden and doing some illegal dealings in the Ukraine. Then Joe Biden, when he was vice president, went over there and said, "Hey, fire this attorney general that's opening a case under my," and he said this out loud. This is the part we heard. Fire this attorney general, or I'm not going to give you the $1 billion worth of aid that the United States has promised you. And then before he got on the plane, and he even said, if you don't do it by the time I get on the plane, you're not getting the money. And 4 hours later, when he got on the plane, the guy was fired.
Yes.
And the thought, and we saw the same thing actually happen in like the Virgin Islands or something. When they opened a case against,
the assistant, the U.S. attorney in Virgin Islands, I think, got canned. After
that was around the Epstein case. Yep. And Biden also went down there on vacation. Okay. So, but Biden could just say, no, I wanted him fired because we needed this money. We needed this guy. We needed.
He wouldn't even have to justify it. He would just say,
because they can't ask the motives.
Right. He would say, look, that falls presumptively and conclusively within my bounds as the vice president. That's what I do. I was doing that on behalf of the president of the United States. The presidency has the exclusive constitutional authority to deal with foreign policy and foreign powers. And so whatever the motives are, you can't inquire because it's none of the judiciary or the legislatures. Now you might have
so as the people of the United States, we have to be like, okay, we accept that and we don't like that, and we're just not going to vote for the guy again, but he has to be able to keep those powers.
Right. That one would be closer though, because there you're dealing with something that Congress has its hand in. In other words, the decision to send money overseas has to be appropriated by Congress.
Right.
And so you could argue, the argument there would be, well, that's not exclusively your province. Yes, you deal with foreign things, but if the Congress appropriates the money, your job is just to execute the laws. And so now where it looks like there's a quid pro quo for you to get a prosecutor fired because they're looking into your son's company and there's some,
What was Biden's justification of wanting the guy fired? Did he have a different narrative?
Yeah. What's, he doesn't have anything. I mean, the press, which is now American Pravda, all rushed out to say, no, it was because the prosecutor was corrupt. And see, that's why he was.
Oh, we care about their corruption.
Right. So it was about protecting Ukrainians from the corrupt prosecutor.
Did they say what he was corrupt about? Was he
No, they just
drugs?
repeat that over and over again. There's very little to support.
There's no wow, isn't that fucking amazing?
Yeah.
And that prosecutor has since been interviewed
Yes.
on US television, right?
I don't know. I think
Hannity interviewed him. I think in studio.
Yes. I've seen things, transcripts of interviews with him where he's like, I wasn't corrupt. In fact, I was investigating corruption. That was the whole point. But Ukraine is notoriously corrupt, has been for a long time. And so you could probably find, it's one of those things like, and what do we call corruption? Like a lot of what we call corruption, I used to run into this in Afghanistan. A lot of what we call corruption is just the way the world works in different parts of, in other parts of the world. Like it is expected, it was fully expected when I was in Afghanistan that if you got a job and you were put in a place of power, you couldn't come back to your village if you didn't get everybody around you. Like if you didn't find a way to help that money flow to your cousin Ed and your brother Joe and whatever, that was the expectation was, of course you would have nepotism. Of course you would get, you couldn't show your face in public if you didn't,
It's entirely tribal.
Yeah. It's tribal first. You know what I mean? Loyalty starts from the family unit and works its way outward. And so the idea that you would put government interests above your, getting your brother a job is ridiculous. That notion is crazy.
So could you summarize then for me as a takeaway what happened yesterday in the Supreme Court?
Yeah, the Supreme Court said what it's always said. The president has absolute immunity for acts that are within his core constitutional competencies. He's got presumptive immunity out to the outer limits of his official actions. And then outside of that, if he does things unofficially, and so you have to make a threshold decision for things he does unofficial, he has no immunity.
So like blowing up the Nordic pipeline, immunity.
No, I wouldn't think so.
But it's a big why, because it's not within his constitutional right to do that.
Yeah,
unilaterally make that decision.
Right to to tube somebody else's. But now you could argue, he does. I mean, now we get into is it palpably and manifestly outside of his, manifestly or palpably beyond his authority? Because the president does. Now we get into like all these things. What about all the things that the president orders, and you have this, orders the CIA to do, and you have this plausible deniability. Like Obama killed an American, had drone struck an American, Anwar al-Awlaki, and a teenage boy. No due process. Those were American citizens. Yeah, they were overseas, and you could argue, hey, they took up the uniforms, but he never made any of those findings. He just asserted the authority to kill an American with no due process. And so what
would be for sure you don't have the authority, raping a woman? That would be like there's no way around, like you couldn't argue that.
Yeah, you're not gonna float that one by anybody, I wouldn't think.
Right.
Where is that in the job description?
Right. Okay.
And that's what it comes down to is how do you tie the thing that you did? How do you tie that back to your job as president of the United States?
It's tough because we want to protect the president. We want to protect the president from getting criminally prosecuted while looking out for our best interests.
Right.
But you don't want fucking Hitler being like, hey, it's in the country's best interest to kill all the Jews.
Right. Clear, manifestly and palpably outside of his authority. You can't target, a particular group. I mean, there would be a lot of things that I would think that would pretty quickly fall outside that ambit. But we've had lawless presidents for a while, and the Biden regime has been openly stated that they would be lawless. I mean, has done that repeatedly. You know, all the mandates, the vaccine mandates, there's no federal authority. The president has no authority to mandate vaccines. Never has. I mean, they had to explain that. The Supreme Court had to, but I mean, over and over again, you know, there's no presidential authority to grant loan, forgiveness for college students because you want them to vote for you. You know, that's spending somebody else's money. That's your money that's being spent on people who took out loans. I mean, it's, you know, you could argue bailouts are the same thing for banks. As far as I'm concerned, they should have been allowed to fail. But we've been lawless for quite some time now. And so we're all living in this weird world where, you know, the Supreme Court issues statements like this that in theory sound good, but you go back and you go, yeah, but we've been operating lawlessly for quite some time. And you go, well, yeah. I mean, look, we've been at war for how long? When was the last declaration of war?
I don't know. When is it?
Last declaration of war, as far as I know, is World War II. So we had Korea.
So Vietnam
War.
Vietnam wasn't it? No,
it was a police action. You know, we've had all these things. That's what led to the War Powers Act in, I think, 73. I mean, we've had this ongoing, you know, where presidents are now, we used for the Gulf War, all of that, we use the AUMF, the authorization for the use of military force. Congress has fundamentally punted on its war power, on the ability to declare war, and allowed presidents to be fucking around in countries all over the world, dropping bombs in Syria, drone striking in the tribal areas, dropping bombs in Iraq. I mean, you give someone that power. I mean, it's funny to me. Tolkien wrote The Lord of the Rings quite a while ago, and he couldn't have been more explicit about it. You know, it's called the Ring of Power, and nobody can resist it. No mortal man can resist its call. And it's like, how much more explicit does he have to be? And yet we continue to do the same shit over and over again, you know, like not getting that power corrupts. You know, it really does. Every time some asshole sitting in the White House, man, there's no power that he doesn't think he can assert for himself. That's as true of Trump as anybody.
You know, I was thinking about the difference think about the ramifications. You know, you take all, it could be a whole show, but you take of all the arguments that Trump was behind the insurrection and versus what Obama said regarding the war on cops.
Right.
And it would be much easier to argue that Obama got shitloads of cops and shitload of black people killed,
of course,
than it would be to argue that Trump was somehow behind the insurrection. Hey, tell me about your podcast.
Hey, we've recorded 2 episodes. I got Jay Vera, the mighty Jay Vera, is trying to help me put my ramblings together, and so we're on episode 3.
Is it on YouTube?
Not yet. I haven't put it up. We were about to do. I'll send you links to it so you can look at it and have a chuckle. But we've done 2. I've looked at the first 2, and at first I was kind of cringy. I wish Jay. I'm like, I think it helps to have Jay talk a little more. But he's been letting me ramble right now. I figured we'd picked up. I've been writing.
It's hard. It's hard in the beginning to get used to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. So I figured I'd start with the beginning of my career. So I'm about 11 on my Substack. This is kind of going with the Substack where I write the abject lesson. But I've been writing, I'm on piece number 11, I think, but it's called Aviation Mishaps Storytime. And so I've been writing about all of the crashes and mishaps I was involved in, or, involved with, or knew about, or participated in, or had some insight into. And I've still got 3 or 4 more to go. And just talking through all of those. So that's this. I did a series on my time living in China. I'll probably do some podcast on that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm going to go through just different, probably I'll just do it career wise. Like I'm starting with my first career, which was as a pilot. And then I'll work my way through some of the cases I was a part of, like including, you know, what got me into the vaccine stuff when defending folks who refused the anthrax vaccine back in the 90s, my first cases.
How is that case coming? Is it always moving forward?
Yeah, we're doing great. We've got motions for judgment on the administrative record. We got some good some good stuff going on there. Yeah, where I don't see how we lose, to be honest with you, but you know, anything can happen.
Do you know how many are you allowed to say how many clients or how many people are involved in the suit?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've got I think we're close to 1,000 clients right now. And the class, we're relatively certain that the class is, we've got 3 class action cases in the Court of Federal Claims. And one of them is for coasties, and we think there's about 1,500 of those people who qualify. We've got several hundred already signed up. We've got a big chunk of the coasties, And then we've got one for all the active duty folks, Title 10 folks who got kicked off of orders and shit canned. And there's about 8,500 of those people. So between the coasties and active duty folks who got kicked off of orders and all that, you're talking about maybe 10,000 people total. And then we have another class for all the for all National Guardsmen who they shit canned who wouldn't take the vaccine because the uptake was much lower in the National Guard because they were like, I got a day job. I'm not taking this, eat shit. So they only had like 40-50% uptake rates. So what Secretary of Defense Austin did was people who didn't take the vaccine, they cut funding for all of their orders. So they just were like, nope, no money for you, and just cut their orders, cut the funding for them. And that was like 70,000 people. It was almost 10% of the entire National Guard they shit canned. And
Wow.
now they're wondering why we're having a recruiting crisis.
No
I talked to, there's a book that came out. It's been big on Fox. Pete Hegseth wrote a book called The War on Warriors. And Hegseth is a host on Fox. He's also a Minnesota National Guardsman. And he did a couple tours in Iraq. And I think Hegseth actually has a combat V on his. I don't know if he's got a combat V, but I think he's got a combat action ribbon or something. But anyway, Pete Hegseth, the Fox host, was a guardsman. And he wrote a book. I've got that one. Yeah, The War on Warriors. And I'm a little ways into that one. But I reached out to him and had a conversation with him, talked to him about it. Super nice guy. He was really, really nice. And, he's like, hey, we're destroying the military is being systematically destroyed. And he absolutely says that the vax was part of it. I mean, we had a really very nice chat. Well, in fact, I had a chat with him while I was out at Greg's last time. I had to run over to Starbucks to get some cell coverage. And I talked to him for about 15 minutes while I was over there getting
He's written a bunch of books.
Yeah, he's several. This one's, I haven't read his other stuff, but this one's good. But he knows.
What's it called? The War on Warriors?
Yeah, The War on Warriors. Yep. Available on Amazon all over. And he's doing a little book tour right now. And so he was super cool and said he'd support. I told him about the litigation, what we were doing. And he was like, yeah, right on. I said, I don't know. I've used the word purge. He's like, I use that word in the book. He's like, I use the word purge. He said the same thing. What's going on in the military is a purge of people of conscience. So they kicked out, the vax became fundamentally a loyalty test. And if you wouldn't get, vaccinated, then they didn't care about your religious accommodation request. That's part of at the heart of our lawsuits is you had tens of thousands of military members who said, hey, I've got religious objections to taking this thing. And the military denied all of those, fundamentally did not grant, ignored its obligations under RFRA and all of that. And so we're suing on behalf of those people. They got kicked out for no reason. And so, we're trying to get back pay and reinstatement and all that, promotions for people who got promotions pulled. Like they had guys, if you were already selected for promotion, you're just waiting to pin it on. So you've already been selected. They said, you're good enough to be a major, or whatever, a lieutenant colonel. We've got them all at different ranks. And then people were like, well, I don't want to take the vaccine. They're like, oh, give me that promotion back. We had a guy who had already pinned. Oh yeah. We had a guy who pinned it on. They called him back in, made him take it off. They were like, made him a first class. And then he's like, all right. And they're like, nope, give me that back. Whoop, pulled it right back off of his collar.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Happened to a lot of people, anybody who, and here's the amazing thing. They did it even though you had a religious accommodation pending. And I'm like, well, how can you call it an accommodation process if you're presumptively, without having adjudicated the accommodation, you're presumptively saying anybody who's not vaccinated isn't eligible for schools, promotion, command. I had a client who was on Fox News.
That is what they're saying.
Right. So I said, it's not a religious accommodation process. It's a religious targeting process.
Oh, wow.
If there's no accommodation, then it's not an accommodation process. It's a targeting process. You go, hey, we have this process. You can apply for an accommodation. And as soon as you apply for accommodation, they go, you're fired. That's not religious accommodation process.
Right.
That's religious targeting process.
Right. Wow.
And so
AI would have never come up with that.
Nah, you would have if you lived it like I had. You would have come up.
No, that's what I said. AI would never have come up with that.
AI would never have come up.
Right. AI would. That's why you need people as lawyers.
For sure.
You need the white-haired men as lawyers.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I should start wearing one of those wigs. I need to get one of those. Plus, I got a bald spot back here, so I think it probably would help.
Hey, what's fascinating is this always I always remember this. The 11,000 exemptions in New Zealand, which was one of the countries that was like straight pressing everyone to get the injection. Their 11,000 exemptions were all given to first responders.
Interesting.
Yeah, to medical staff and first responders. Like they knew, like, hey, don't do the experimental drug on the people who are going to need to take care of the people.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is kind of interesting. I mean, look, we got a mutual friend who got canned, one of the leading nephrologists in the world.
Right.
And he was treating people all during the pandemic. This is the part that always kills me. And it's one of the strongest arguments I think we have is these people were heroes for the first 15 months of the pandemic when there was no vaccine.
Right.
And then suddenly when the government's preferred pharmaceutical partner had a vaccine, if you didn't take it, so you survived 15 months, you volunteered and survived in this environment where you were like, hey, I'm out there treating people. I'm on the front lines of it. Right. Rah, 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 heroes. Remember remember how we had to cheer every night at 11 o'clock for the first responders and the nurses and all that. Remember that bullshit?
Yes. Yes.
Right. All that cult-like behavior. As soon as pharmaceutical companies had a preferred preferred medical intervention, if you didn't take it, you went from being a hero to a zero overnight. So in other words, you lived through 15 months of the most dangerous part of the pandemic, treating people right up close while they're sneezing, coughing, and putting sputum and mucus on you. And you're like, I'm going to do it anyway. I love these people. I don't care. There's no vaccine, whatever. I'll just, my immune system will do it. You were a big hero. And then it's like, oh, now we have this experimental gene therapy product and you got to take it. And you're like, we're 15 months in. I mean, we're past the worst of it anyway. Do I really need this? I survived during the worst of it. Why do I need this now? I'm healthy. I'm young. And then they were like, you're a piece of shit. It's just weird how like, boom, as soon as the government had a preferred pharmaceutical partner, now you were a piece of shit if you didn't take it. Makes no sense whatsoever. None of it does.
Hey, Dale, this is a pretty crazy question to ask you, but if you had kids, would you give them any vaccine? If you had to do it all over again?
No. I'll
None.
never, never, never again. Yeah. Nope.
You've seen too far down now the rabbit hole. Like you're an expert on like how would they release the measles vaccine, polio. You've seen it all now. Like you're seeing. Okay.
Once I saw behind the curtain, and I'll tell you what happened when I defended the anthrax vaccine, folks, in '99. Somebody sent me a binder of materials. An attorney sent me a binder of materials that he had gotten from all these congressional documents. Long story, but he sent me a binder of materials. I got done with that 3-inch binder of materials, and I was like, "Oh my God!" I just that was it. And then the deeper I got into the case, the worse it got, and I just realized that this has been going on. Yeah, it's all turtles all the way down. It really is.
RFK was on Sean Ryan.
Oh, really? I didn't see that one.
I'll send you a link to the 12-minute, and there's a 12-minute section in there where in 2000, I can't remember 1 or 2006, the CDC is like, oh shit, we got a problem.
Yeah.
We're seeing skyrocketing autoimmune diseases and something's wrong. We got a serious problem. So they had an offsite meeting because they didn't want to have it on campus. They wanted to have a secret meeting, and he got the papers, and the correlation between vaccines and autoimmune diseases and autism is higher than the correlation between smoking and lung cancer.
Yeah,
higher,
way higher.
And it's like
way higher.
And he explains the math, and I'm just like, holy fuck.
Hey,
dude.
Gulf War syndrome. This really started in earnest during the Gulf War, and this is back in the quaint days. So the thought was that Saddam had biological weapons and all that. And so the DOD went to the FDA, and this was back in the quaint days when the DOD pretended that the FDA had authority to regulate this stuff. And so DOD went to FDA and asked for a waiver of what's called Rule 50.23D, which is the law of informed consent, which says that you can't give somebody, something without their informed consent. And so they said, the DOD went to the FDA and said, hey, we need a waiver of the law of informed consent. And they kind of worked. Okay. The FDA was like, well, we got to put all these conditions in place. You can't do this. I mean, blah, blah, blah. The DOD promised, pinky swear, we'll do all the things you say. And then of course they did none of them. They lied. Subsequent investigation. And what you had was all these investigations into Gulf War illness and Gulf War syndrome and all of that shit. And it had nothing to do with bioweapons release or anything by the Iraqis. That was entirely self-inflicted wounds by all of the unlicensed and experimental products that they made soldiers and sailors, airmen and Marines take during the Gulf War. That's what Gulf War illness resulted in. And that ultimately led to this statute, 10 U.S.C. 1107, that says only the president can waive a service member's right of informed consent. and they have to
Only
do
the
so.
president of the United States.
Yeah, and it has to be done in writing, pursuant to a request from the Department of Defense, and he has to do so based on national security, and he has to make findings and all of that. So Congress put that in effect. And then when this thing came out, the government ignored it, and so that's one of the key points we're suing over. And we got a judge finally to say, hey, what, like, I want to hear about this. I want to hear some more. So we're right now in the middle of preparing our discovery for the government to find out. Like, we know, for example, I mean, the whole country fell for it. They never had the licensed vaccines. They licensed the vaccine. Then the same day they licensed it, they pulled it off the market, and then everybody still got the experimental one. So it's
Wait, explain that to me.
so it was a psyop. So on August 23rd of 2021, August 23rd, 2021, there was the FDA made this big announcement that we licensed the vaccine. We licensed Comirnaty, Comirnaty, Comirnaty was licensed. And then what they didn't tell you was the same day they licensed it, its licensure approval date was August 23rd. And its market ending date was also August 23rd. So the same day they licensed it, they also pulled it from the market. And then what they did was they put in a footnote, well, we think this is good enough. It looks close enough. We don't have any concerns about safety or regarding the other Pfizer BNT 162b2, which was the EUA, the emergency use authorized product. So they licensed a product, pulled it from the market the same day they licensed it, told everybody, see, licensed, but they didn't have any of it. And you can look at the FDA regulatory letters. They explicitly say it's not available. The licensed product is not available in sufficient quantity. Therefore, you can use this one instead. Well, that's completely illegal. You can't substitute a drug in for another drug unless it's declared bioequivalent. There's a whole process.
Am I drinking Pepsi or am I drinking Coke?
Right. And so they just said, good enough. People, the
God.
entire U.S. government fell for a psyop, and people don't know, but
Are
they
you
were
tripping as you do you ever like say stuff to the judge and you're watching his face to be like, to see if he gets it? And he's like, wait, what?
So when I was a captain, this is what made me get myself passed over and get out of the Marine Corps. Was I had this judge, and I had practiced a lot in front of him, and I could see there was a moment where I could see he got it. And I could see
regarding the anthrax vaccine.
Yeah, this is with the anthrax vaccine. I was like, it's not licensed. It was same kind of all the same shit. They just do it over and over again.
Yeah.
And
the polio vaccine's the same thing. When I read the book on it, I'm like, oh shit, this is the exact same scam they did with COVID.
Yes, they just keep rerunning the same, and people, people fall for it.
Yeah.
And so when I saw the look in his eyes, and I could see the realization, and I could also see him go, I'm not going to, like, he realized that if he ruled in my favor, he would be shutting down the entire DoD anthrax vaccine program. And so what he said was, his punt was, well, this is a political question, and so it's therefore not cognizable by that. He just basically punted. He wanted no part of it. And I still love the guy. I think he's a good dude, but he shrank from it. He wasn't willing to step in front of that train. He wasn't going to have his career.
It's that bad. Just end of his career, like he ends $1 billion business, and so he's toast.
Yeah, his career's going nowhere after that. You think that guy's getting promoted? You think he won't be removed as a judge, as a military judge? Come on. I've got a case. I've got a declaration.
On the other hand, dudes are dying.
Right. I've got a case pending. It's in front of a judge in Texas that's been pending for almost 9 months now. The rule, and I filed a motion, blah, 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 but it doesn't really matter procedurally. But that case has been pending, and it's asking for a declaratory judgment about what I just told you about. It's basically in federal district court saying, I want a declaration that the DoD does not have the authority to swap in an unlicensed product, absent the FDA, absent the manufacturer complying with all the things to establish bioequivalency and all that, following the law, basically.
I mean,
and that judge hasn't touched it in 9 months, won't touch it.
Isn't it just logical? Like, hey, if this one got licensed and you're substituting it with this one, get this one licensed too. What's the big deal?
Yeah, because they're not. The thing is, they're not made by the same process. So what they did was they use these mRNA products are extraordinarily hard to make. They're extremely unstable, and they have to be kept at really low temperatures. And so there's all kinds of difficulties around this. So what they did was, for the licensed product, they used a very, very rigorous process. It's lengthy. It takes a long time to make, and it's very hard. You can't make vaccine. It costs a lot of money, and you can't make vaccines. You can't just rip them out by the billions for the whole world. And so they used one process for the licensed one and then pull it from the market. And then they use this other one that uses a less rigorous process to manufacture. And then they go, it's close enough. Come on, good enough, in a footnote. And that's what everybody got. That's BNT 162b2. That was the experimental. But the other thing is this, the real thing that's going on is the EUA product has PrEP Act immunity. The licensed product doesn't. So if I'm a drug manufacturer and there's a licensed drug and then you take it and you're harmed, you hear this all the time, like, drugs get pulled from the market because it turns out they have all these adverse effects after it's already been licensed. So if it's licensed and then people take it and they're harmed, then you've got legal recourse against the manufacturer. But if it's the EUA product pursuant to an emergency use authorization, the PrEP Act kicks in, and the PrEP Act is so far unbreakable. Basically the pharmaceutical companies, the manufacturers, have complete immunity. So that's why they did it. They got a drug license. They used that for a PSYOP. They switched in the unlicensed product, but that unlicensed product has complete immunity. So if it hurts people, meh.
Oh, and that's what Sevog in here was saying. It's all about product liability.
Bingo. Yeah. Bingo. That's right. They use the EUA product because it's got PrEP Act liability, and the licensed product they don't want to use because then the manufacturers could be sued for the harms that result from it. And so that's why we're living in this regime. Pharmaceutical companies are fundamentally, don't make me say it, but yeah, those places are bad and they're filled with bad people. That's all there is to it, period.
Can't wait to see you next.
Here's your black pill for the day.
Yeah. Yeah, you're amazing. Hey, I wonder when I'm going to see you next. Do you have plans? Are you going to Idaho? Are you wondering?
Hey, are you going to this thing in New York, the Broken Science thing?
I'd never even heard of it until yesterday. I'd never even heard of it.
At the email, is Greg going?
I have no idea.
I got to see what.
I don't even know if Greg knows about it.
Yeah,
to be honest with you. I'm about to go have breakfast with him though, and I'll ask him. I was on a text thread yesterday where someone asked Greg, "Hey, are you going to this?" And Greg didn't respond.
Yeah, Maggie's due on August. She's having the baby on August 12th.
And when's the event in New York?
July 11th. But I mean, she's you've seen her. I mean, she's way along here, and they're getting ready to head up to Idaho. And so I might try. I told them I'd see them before she has the baby, so I'd like to get up to Idaho with them. We might go up and see him in Idaho.
I can't imagine him going.
Yeah, it seems unlikely.
Yeah. I mean, he's going, like you said, he's going to Idaho. He's going to want to get settled.
Yeah. Plus, he's got new toys and that new pier and all that.
Yeah. Hey, tell me if you're going up there. I want to try to go up there so I can hang with you.
Oh, absolutely. I'll let you know before I go. I'll reach out. I'd love to go, kids, the whole 9 yards. Let's go up there and just the dart gun wars there are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Dart gun wars at his place in Idaho.
Brett had a blast with you. He was telling my boys about it, and I was listening. He's like, Dale was there. We had a huge Nerf war.
Oh, yeah.
Gatling gun.
Oh, yeah. And what was great was how when you can sneak up on
they let you use it too, right? They let you destroy the kids.
They didn't let anything. I did, man. I was carrying out executions.
You stormed the 7-year-old?
Oh yeah. I was just carrying out straight up executions on those kids, like they'd walk, I'd be hidden behind a thing, they'd walk by, I just put it right in the back of their head and be like, pow, right? Shoot them right in the head.
They loved you shooting the Gatling gun at them. They were loving
that. Uncle Dale was laying down the law, I'm telling you.
All right, Dale, there were too many nice comments to read.
That's all right.
About you. Everyone was just like, why has it been so long since Dale's been on? Blah, blah, blah. So
he got punched in the face for running his mouth. Look at this. Jeez.
I appreciate you coming on. I texted you really late last night and asked you to come on and explain the Trump thing to me. I appreciate you. Yeah. And as soon as the podcast launches, let me know. We'll have you back on and make fun of you.
Yeah, perfect. That'll be great.
All right, brother. Love you to death.
Love you, Savvy. Hey, good to see you as always, your man at the booth, making it work.
Caleb Beaver. All right, Dale. Ciao.
All right, later.
Dale Saran. All right. Okay. What's going on here?
I was wondering if that Trump thing was going to create some sort of like slippery slope for other presidents.
Yeah, you can't have the president be. I feel like that's what happened. I feel like so many places I see now, people are in just paralysis because of all the woke shit. Everyone's just terrified to act, you know?
Yeah.
And that would definitely cause all sorts of paralysis in the White House. Who the fuck would want to be president if you could be charged with any fucking thing you do
Right.
criminally?
I thought it was interesting. Who is it? Sonia Sotomayor said something
Pardon
about.
me? Say it again.
So I saw something. I think was it Sonia Sotomayor, one of the Supreme Court justices,
Yeah.
said something about how it's like, oh well, whoever the president is, could use SEAL Team 6 to assassinate their political rivals or whatever. And I just thought it was so bizarre that would. I don't know. I just thought it was.
I think she has the same brain rot as Joe Biden. I'm not even joking when I look at her.
Probably pretty similar.
All right. I'm off. What's today? Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Sousa has his show. Oh my God, guys. 11 a.m. Holy shit. The show you don't want to miss. The show of shows. Is it at 11? 2 hours?
Let's find out.
Sousa and Hiller will be getting on.
Mm.
I have not talked to them about the show, but I have to guess it's going to be a recap of the last couple months. And it's going to be it's probably going to be wild.
Yeah, it's at 11 Pacific Standard Time. 1 p.m.
Dale on the Mount Rushmore of Sevon guests. Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
What did you say, Caleb? What did you say?
Yep, it's at 11 Pacific Standard Time. The show with Sousa and Hiller.
Yeah, that's going to be nuts. I can't wait. That's going to be fun. I'm going to kind of be on the edge of my seat. So, so Dylan basically gets to just smash Arielle whenever he wants.
I mean, any good husband should be able to, right?
Dude, her window's between 9 a.m. and 10 p.m. and she feels bad for that because it's games prep.
I hope Dylan takes time off in the morning. I hope he doesn't start work till like 10:30.
Yeah, he's got a 13-hour window. Oh my goodness. That is awesome. I'm so happy for him. Because in my mind, they don't the games girls don't fuck. I don't know why.
I feel like during this time of the year, you're like, hell no, I'm not doing shit.
I just think they don't at all, period, all year. That they have too many issues.
Nah.
You know what I mean? Like they're obsessive compulsive or they're just weirdos. Like they just don't.
I feel like it's like the Olympics.
I just don't think of them as sexual creatures.
It's like the Olympics where not like where everybody gets together and fucks, but like you have these super high level athletes and they need something to do.
Olympic Village is just a
fuck fest.
Just a fuck fest. Okay, I'm gonna fuck someone on the hockey team this year, on the volleyball team.
Yeah, you've got to have like a list, right? Every 4 years,
checklist.
you try to get as many sports as possible.
What is this? I haven't seen this. I have a question. All right. I keep saying this stuff when I'm at family events, but now they don't let me come back. What's the best way to force myself into Thanksgiving dinner? Is there some sort of group I can call?
What the fuck?
I feel horrible for saying this, but a family member of mine was saying that they don't think Biden was adequately prepared for the debate.
Oh, no shit. Huh?
And I'm just like, when I heard that, I was just like, what do you mean adequately? Like he was fully like
What
that
else?
was their justification. That was their justification for the shit show, that he wasn't prepared. Like he'd just been sitting around all week smoking weed, watching fucking old Simpsons episodes. It's like, come on, dude.
Sure. Yeah.
Really?
I feel like it's just a full blown panic. Everybody's trying to redirect to something else. They're trying to pivot the conversation to be something else, you know? It's just, I mean, I don't know. It's pretty shitty on both sides.
Okay. Oh, I'll see you guys in the chat at 11 a.m. Love you guys. Caleb, thank you. I think it's going to be, this might be our biggest show of the month, by the way. I think this one's going to be a massive show, over 10,000 views. It's going to be on both YouTube and then another 10,000 on iTunes.
Sick.
All right. Love you guys. Bye-bye.